So, one of the most colourful figures in the Conservative Party has jumped out of the Conservative Party and into the Reform Party. Was it a good decision? I can't tell you that, but what I can tell you is that during his speech as a Reform Party representative, he made one statement of such colossal importance, I am going to dedicate an entire video to it. What was it? Well, stick around. I am Graniopteryx. So I'm not going to play you the whole speech. I'm just going to start with part of it. And this will lead up into the part that I think is of such importance. So let's get on with that now.
Down the country who feel that they're not being listened to. People will say that I took a gamble, and I'm prepared to gamble on myself, as I know from my mailbag how many people in this country support Reform UK and what they have to say. And like millions of people up and down the country, all I want is my country back. Now, this may sound offensive to the Liberal elite, but it's not offensive to my friends, my family, my constituents, and some of my donors. Constituents like my mum and dad, who told me they could not vote for me unless I joined Reform UK. My parents are both nearly 80, and they get it, and I must not let them down.
Right, did you hear what he just said? I'll play it again.
I mailbag how many people in this country support Reform UK and what they have to say. And like millions of people up and down the country, all I want is my country back. Now, this may sound offensive to the Liberal elite, but it's not offensive to my friends, my family, my constituents, and some of my donors. Constituents like my mum and dad, who told me they could not vote for me unless I joined Reform UK. My parents are both nearly 80, and they get it.
Lee Anderson said that his parents told him they can't vote for him as long as he's in the Conservatives. Or rather, what he said was, unless he joins Reform UK, which means his parents said they don't trust the Conservatives or the Labour Party. And that could be taken as one stray comment about a family disagreement over politics. But what he was talking about was actually the very basis of British culture and our voting system. How many societies can you think of where the population votes for political parties and political arguments that don't have anything to do with their immediate families? And if you're thinking of the Pakistani vote, well, they're not the only ones. Consider this: a little while ago, a Greek neighbour of mine, talking about voting, mentioned that, of course, all the Greeks would be voting for X, whoever she was, because her husband was Greek. And I also know that over in Tottenham, where there's a large Turkish population, the Turks vote for Turkish candidates, or at least for candidates who've aligned themselves in some way with the Turkish community. And this is irrespective of the known honesty or dishonesty of the people who have put themselves up as candidates, or whether or not they're good at their job. And here we have Lee Anderson's parents, people who would be and are regarded by a lot of those young Brexiteers who kicked up such a fuss a while ago as a load of poisonous old dinosaurs. And these octogenarians are saying that they won't vote for their own son if his political affiliations are not theirs. If what he is going to do, they do not think is good for the country. This is the great invention of British democracy, that your political opinions can be divorced from your blood ties, your associations, your social setup, and your religion. And that's something very precious. And it's something that's being undermined all the time, especially by the ethnic minorities who do vote according to their religion or their external political affiliations. People like George Galloway, who was recently elected and was able to say the very first thing he was talking about upon being elected was, "This is for Gaza." Now, for sure, he was also talking about other things that were going on in Rochdale. But the fact that he could talk about a foreign country, which isn't even a proper country, filled with terrorists and, not even blush a little bit, and everybody around him cheered, shows a tribal voting pattern that is not British and is not good. And any country that follows that pattern doesn't usually end well. Now, whether Lee Anderson makes anything of this new party, because it's been struggling a bit, whether the Reform Party gets the boost it needs, I can't say. There have been so many false dawns in that respect that I've learnt not to get my hopes up. And actually, I'm not that hopeful about Reform UK. The Labour Party took over from the Liberals in the 20s because they already had a structure, the union system. They had that whole union structure to rely on. And they had the organisation and the support of those union structures. The Reform Party doesn't have that. In fact, it does have a lot of members who are independent-minded supporters, and that's always going to be more difficult. I'm sure you've all heard the expression of trying to herd cats. Well, that's the problem of the Reform Party, and that's why, as I said, I'm not that hopeful, so I don't know. But we can take something away from Mr. Anderson's speech, which illustrates a really important part of British democracy, of which we can be proud and towards which we should always be striving. And whatever Lee Anderson does, whatever the Reform Party does, whatever the outcome is, that one single stray comment of his is probably the most important thing that's been said in British politics since Brexit. And it took a whole country to say that. OK, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.